the moment he was arrested, the 43-year-old singer has adamantly denied he or his 21-year-old girlfriend ever assaulted the alleged victim in any way.
Grief is the price we pay for love, but in the entertainment industry, the red carpet spotlights are so blinding they often hide the darkest corners imaginable. Beyond the timeless love ballads and flashing cameras lie chilling secrets of kidnapping, torture, and icons dying completely alone, handcuffed to a hospital bed. Before we unseal these dark archives, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for Black Icons. Because today, we are counting down the 17 absolute most tragic and horrifying endings in American entertainment history. Trust me, you aren't ready for the cruelty of cases number 1 and 2. Number 1. Rick James and Tanya Hijazi, a velvet hell in the dark abyss of drugs. Have you ever wondered what truly hides behind the closed doors of Hollywood's most luxurious mansions? Let's rewind to the 1980s, when Rick James was worshipped as the king of punk funk, the mastermind behind the smash hit Super Freak. He had it all: money, fame, and a stunning, fiery young lover, Tanya Hijazi. On the outside, they were a swaggering, glamorous power couple, but when the heavy oak doors of their West Hollywood estate closed, that's when the demons woke up. In the sweltering heat of July 1991, fueled by an absolute frenzy of crack cocaine, that million-dollar mansion turned into a horrifying prison. The victim was a young woman named Frances. No one could have imagined that a musical idol whose name was screamed by millions would team up with his girlfriend to hold this poor woman captive, tying her up for 3 agonizing days and nights. The air was thick with the suffocating smell of smoke and sheer panic. They continuously terrorized her psychologically, and the cruelty reached its peak when they used a searing hot crack pipe to inflict unspeakable pain on her body. The booming sound of funk music echoing in the living room completely drowned out her desperate cries for help inside. But the absolute most terrifying part? It didn't stop there. Imagine this: 2 years later, in 1993, while out on bail awaiting trial for that very nightmare, this twisted duo went right back to their old ways, holding and assaulting a second woman in a hotel room. Where does such cruelty come from? Look closer, and you'll see the tragedy of a genius swallowed whole by greed and heavy narcotics. Money didn't buy him peace. It only bought more drugs to feed the monster inside Rick James. The sentence of over 2 years at Folsom Prison was just the beginning of a brutal end. His multi-million-dollar empire vanished into thin air. The once great king withered away in sickness, eventually collapsing in 2004 from heart failure and a stroke, his body ravaged by toxins. He left behind a monumental musical legacy, one that will forever be stained by unforgivable crimes. Number 2, Teddy Pendergrass and Taaz, A Murder in the Dark and the Fateful Ride. If Rick James destroyed his own life with his bare hands, the story at number 2 is a ruthlessly cruel twist of fate. Close your eyes and think back to the 70s. Did anyone sing soul music with more romance and raw passion than Teddy Pendergrass? He was the ultimate sex symbol, a man whose baritone voice made thousands of women throw their lingerie on stage. And standing behind that dazzling success was Taaz, not just a razor-sharp manager, but the woman who once held his heart. But darkness is always waiting to swallow the brightest lights. On a spring night in April 1974, the Philadelphia sky was chillingly silent. Just as Taaz stepped up to her front door, a killer lurking in the shadows pulled the trigger. The gunshot ripped through the night, stealing the life of a brilliant woman. To this day, the case file remains frozen in time. No killer, no clear motive. Taaz's death was a devastating blow that pierced Teddy's soul, a deep-seated trauma he carried all the way to the peak of his glory. Yet the Grim Reaper wasn't finished with this man. Fast forward to March 1982, Teddy was at the absolute blinding zenith of his career. On a bitter, cold night, he was behind the wheel of his emerald green Rolls-Royce, navigating the winding curves of Lincoln Drive. And then, the brakes suddenly failed. The luxury vehicle lost all control, hurtling forward in sheer panic before violently slamming into a massive tree. The sound of crushing metal that night was also the sound of a legend shattering into pieces. When he woke up in the hospital, Teddy faced an invisible sentence far more terrifying than death itself. His spinal cord was severed. The man who stood as a towering symbol of power and untamed magnetism had lost all feeling and movement from the chest down. Does it break your heart? Teddy Pendergrass lost the most important woman who built his career to a mystery bullet, only to lose his own proud physical form 8 years later. Spending 28 agonizing years confined to a wheelchair, Teddy taught us a bitterly painful lesson. No matter how blinding your spotlight is, it can never act as a shield against the ruthless, crushing blows of destiny. Number 3. Eazy-E and Tomica Woods-Wright, The Deathbed Wedding and a Torn Empire. How do you think a notorious street gangster, the godfather of gangsta rap, would meet his end? A drive-by shooting? Gang warfare? No. Eazy-E's death was far more ironic and brutally cruel than that. Look at Eric Wright, a man who owned the multi-million-dollar empire of ruthless records. He and Tomica Woods met at a nightclub, fell in love, and had 2 children together. Everything seemed to be on the right track for a hustler looking to wash his hands of the streets and settle down. But the terrifying dark side began in February 1995. Eazy-E walked into Cedars-Sinai Hospital with a severe, hacking cough, utterly convinced he was just dealing with a bad case of asthma. Can you imagine the sheer terror on that swaggering gangster's face when the doctor held up the test results and said, HIV/AIDS, and it has already progressed to the final stage? His body was devoured by the virus at a horrifying speed, his weight plummeting, his immune system completely collapsing. Right in those most desperate, dying moments, a shocking decision was made. A rushed wedding. On March 14, 1995, inside a hospital room reeking of antiseptic, Eazy-E, now nothing more than a gasping shadow of his former self, exchanged vows with Tomica Woods. Exactly 12 days later, he took his final breath at the age of 31. The ruthless aftermath. Do you think that wedding was a testament to eternal love defying death? Look at what happened the second Eazy-E's heartbeat flatlined. There was zero time for mourning. That 12-day marriage license was the ultimate trump card, handing total control of ruthless records over to Tomica. It ignited one of the bloodiest, most cutthroat legal wars in hip-hop history. His former NWA brothers, along with his 7 children from 6 different women, fiercely tore into his massive estate. And let's not forget the bone-chilling conspiracy theory that has lingered in the shadows for decades, that Eazy-E didn't contract the virus naturally, but was injected with HIV-tainted blood by his enemies. Whatever the truth may be, the godfather of West Coast rap died in sheer agony, leaving behind a family ripped into 100 pieces by pure greed. Number 4. Lisa, Left Eye, Lopes, and Andre Rison, Flames of Jealousy and an Omen in the Deep Woods. Is there a boundary between passionate love and absolute destruction? If you asked Lisa Left Eye Lopes, the most rebellious and brilliant piece of the legendary girl group TLC, the answer would absolutely be no. Her romance with NFL superstar Andre Rison wasn't a romantic movie. It was a ticking time bomb soaked in liquor, physical violence, and deceit. The darkest chapter exploded in 1994. After discovering Andre was cheating and suffering physical abuse from him, Lisa went into a frenzy. She gathered up all of her lover's expensive sneakers, threw them into a fiberglass bathtub, doused them in lighter fluid, and lit them up. She only meant to burn the shoes, but the raging inferno swallowed the entire $1.3 million mega mansion, reducing it to ashes. The image of Lisa flashing a bitter smile in her police mugshot became the ultimate symbol of a tortured soul screaming for help. But the real tragedy, the part that will send shivers down your spine, lies in her final chapter. In 2002, desperately trying to outrun the ghosts of depression, Lisa fled to the deep jungles of Honduras seeking spiritual cleansing. While there, a horrifying event took place. A vehicle she was a passenger in accidentally struck and killed a local little boy. Do you know what the most terrifying part is? That boy shared her exact same last name, Lopes. In the chilling final video diaries of her life, a panicked Lisa explicitly stated she felt a dark spirit stalking her and believed that this entity had mistakenly taken the boy's life instead of hers. That grim premonition came true just days later. On April 25, 2002, the Mitsubishi Montero Lisa was driving, swerved suddenly to avoid an oncoming vehicle. The SUV lost control, plunged into a ditch, and rolled multiple times. Out of the 7 people inside that vehicle, everyone survived, except for one single person, Lisa Lopes. A fatal blow to the neck violently snatched away the life of one of the most brilliant artists of her generation at just 30 years old. A girl who spent her entire life burning bright for music and love, ultimately perishing alone in a foreign jungle, carrying spiritual mysteries that will forever remain unsolved. Number 5. Sam Cooke and Barbara Campbell, tears at the bottom of the pool and a pool of blood in a seedy motel. Close your eyes and picture the warm, magnetic smile of the king of soul, Sam Cooke. His voice was smooth as velvet, a towering symbol of hope and pure elegance. But behind the closed doors of the Cooke household lay a darkness so suffocating it would steal your breath. The first haunting scene unfolds on a glaring summer day in 1963. In the middle of their sun-drenched estate, a scream shatters the silence. Sam and Barbara's 18-month-old baby boy has drowned, his lifeless body sinking to the bottom of the family pool. The image of Barbara collapsing, clutching the cold body of her child, drained every ounce of life out of this marriage. They sank into an incurable, heavy depression. But the real shock, a ruthless image that history almost seems to want to erase, happened just 1 year later, the night of December 11, 1964. The setting isn't a magnificent stage, it's the Hacienda, a cheap, sleazy $3 a night motel in Los Angeles. The air reeks of cheap liquor and shady secrets. What happened? Sam Cooke, one of the most elegant men in America, lies slumped in a pool of dark red blood on the freezing floor, shot straight through the heart. The most horrifying part? He died almost completely naked, wearing nothing but a sports jacket and a single shoe. The person holding the smoking gun was an elderly motel manager, insisting that Sam was trying to assault a prostitute and had attacked her. The court quickly closed the case, ruling it a justifiable homicide. But do you believe that? His family, the black community, and all of us watching can never stop asking, did his financial support for the civil rights movement and the rising power of a black icon make him a target for a shadowy syndicate? Was it a perfectly staged assassination designed to smear a dead man's legacy? Sam Cooke sang, "A change is gonna come," but the only change he received was a tragic bullet in the dead of winter. Number 6. Florence Ballard and Tommy Chapman, from diamond-studded gowns to the welfare line. This next image is going to feel like a straight slap to the face of the glamorous music industry. Do you remember the Supremes? Those dazzling black women in satin gowns studded with sparkling diamonds, sharing a stage with the Queen of England. Florence Ballard was the very woman who founded and named that legendary group, but cut quickly to a bone-chilling winter morning in Detroit in the 1970s. The blinding stage lights are gone. The chauffeured limousines are a ghost of the past. The picture that hits our eyes is a frail, shivering woman in a worn-out coat, holding her young children's hands, quietly shuffling forward in a massive line outside the Social Security office. Yes, that is Florence Ballard. She is standing in the freezing cold, waiting for food stamps just to survive the day. The collapse started with the sheer cruelty of her record label, ruthlessly kicking her to the curb to push Diana Ross into the solo spotlight. Her marriage to Tommy Chapman, instead of being a safe haven, turned into an absolute disaster when both of them were drained of their last royalty pennies by shady lawyers in gray suits. The bank foreclosed on their mansion, their cars were repossessed. The sheer humiliation, the agonizing betrayal, and the biting poverty simply eroded the heart of a queen. In February 1976, at the vibrant age of 32, Florence's heart literally stopped beating due to a fatal blood clot. She died utterly alone, leaving behind a shattered family and an empty bank account without even a few dollars to her name. The image of her collapsing in that rundown apartment stands as the most damning indictment of the entertainment industry's brutal, disposable nature. Number 7. Don Cornelius and Victoria Avila-Cornelius, the aging emperor and the blood-stained room. Pay attention to the rhythm here. Millions of Americans grew up with the electric dance moves, the neon lights, and the vibrant outfits of Soul Train. Don Cornelius was the powerful emperor, the man who held the heartbeat of an entire black cultural movement. His iconic catchphrase was always, "Love, peace, and soul." But in a twisted, sick irony, Don's final days had no love, absolutely no peace, and his soul was shattered into pieces. Behind the fame, he spiraled into a toxic, blood-soaked marriage with Victoria Avila. The shocking image isn't on a dance floor, but buried in police reports from 2009, the 73-year-old emperor in handcuffs, arrested for brutally beating his wife. The bitter divorce that followed was a meat grinder that shredded his fortune and drained his final shreds of dignity. But the most ruthless tragedy was the betrayal of his own body. The agonizing pain from brain aneurysms and the terrifying shadow of oncoming dementia began eating away at his brilliant mind. Picture the scene on the early morning of February 1st, 2012. Far from the roaring, joyful sounds of Soul Train, his Encino mansion is swallowed by a dead, chilling silence. In a dimly lit room, the man who brought so much joy to the world is sitting entirely alone. No one knows exactly what crossed his mind in those final suffocating seconds. The pure terror of losing his sanity, the crushing humiliation of his vanishing wealth. All we know is that he slowly raised a handgun, pressed it to his right temple, and pulled the trigger. A deafening gunshot echoed through the halls, splattering blood against the same walls that once proudly displayed his platinum plaques. The soul permanently left his body in a finale of absolute agonizing despair. Number 8. Phyllis Hyman and Larry Alexander, a shattered voice and the final curtain call. Moving on to our next tragedy. If the gunshot that ended Don Cornelius's life was a violent explosion, the loss of Phyllis Hyman was a quiet, suffocating, and incredibly painful bleed. Blessed with the striking height of a runway model and an R&B voice straight from heaven, Phyllis was treated like a cheap, disposable commodity by the music industry. Record executives constantly tore her down, pressured her into extreme diets, and stripped away her creative freedom. When her marriage to her own manager, Larry Alexander, completely fell apart, it was the final stab to the heart. She spiraled into the dark abyss of untreated bipolar disorder and severe depression. Now, picture the late afternoon of June 30th, 1995. Outside the legendary Apollo Theater, thousands of fans are dressed to the nines, excitedly lining up for her sold-out show. But what they didn't know was that miles away, in a dead silent New York apartment, Phyllis had already given up. Utterly drained by the industry, loneliness, and substance abuse, she swallowed a massive overdose of sleeping pills. The most haunting detail? Her lifeless body was found next to a hastily scribbled suicide note with a heartbreaking confession. "I'm tired. I'm tired. Those of you that I love know who you are." A breathtaking legend chose to end her life completely alone, just hours before the velvet stage curtains could even open. Number 9. Billie Holiday and Louis McKay, dying in handcuffs. If Phyllis's story broke your heart, case number 9 is going to make your blood physically boil at the pure cruelty of both human nature and the law. We are looking at Lady Day herself, Billie Holiday, the monumental giant who literally defined the jazz era. But behind that hauntingly beautiful voice was a woman being torn to shreds by abuse. Her ultimate nightmare came in the form of Louis McKay, a notorious mob enforcer who also happened to be her final husband. He didn't love Billie. He brutally beat her, bled every last dime from her pockets, and used her massive celebrity status as a shield for his drug trafficking operations. Now, here's the scene that will permanently burn into your memory. It's July 1959, inside Metropolitan Hospital. A musical icon is gasping for air on a hospital bed, her body completely ravaged by cirrhosis and late-stage heart failure. Her bank account? It held exactly 70 cents. But in the very moment she was counting her final breaths, she wasn't met with grace or compassion. Instead, federal narcotics agents raided her room. Cold and completely emotionless, they took heavy steel handcuffs and locked the dying woman's frail wrists directly to the metal bed frame on charges of drug possession. Billie Holiday, the golden voice of America, took her absolute last breath as a chained prisoner, stripped of her freedom and human dignity right up to the very second she closed her eyes. Welcome back to the Darkest Files. These next 4 cases will take you from blood-stained apartments and midnight escapes all the way to a devastating fireball that tore through the sky. Brace yourselves. Number 10, Miles Davis and Betty Davis of Velvet Hell and the Agony of Anonymity. Step inside the luxurious apartment of jazz legend Miles Davis. The air is thick with cigarette smoke, but hiding within it is the suffocating stench of violence. His marriage to the Queen of Funk, Betty Davis, lasted only 365 days, but it was an absolute living hell. Fueled by severe cocaine paranoia, Miles turned his psychotic jealousy into brutal physical beatings. The image of Betty, a proud fashion icon shivering in a corner, is a dark reality the music world deliberately ignores. But the real shock lies in the aftermath. The abuser continued to be worshipped, while Betty was ruthlessly blacklisted by the industry for being too wild. Imagine a musical genius forced into bankruptcy, locking herself in a rundown apartment, scraping by on pennies for over 40 years. She died in utter obscurity in 2022, entirely forgotten by the very world she helped create. Number 11, Minnie Riperton and Richard Rudolph, an angel's smile and a death sentence on stage. Right in the middle of a list filled with hatred and malice, case number 11 is a beautiful love song violently torn apart by the Grim Reaper. The soaring whistle register notes of her smash hit Lovin' You served as the world's sweetest lullaby. But behind Minnie Riperton's angelic stage smile was a body quietly bleeding out. At the absolute peak of her fame, a devastating blow landed: late-stage breast cancer. Picture a woman who had just undergone a mastectomy, bravely stepping into a glamorous gown, draining her final drops of life force to sing for her fans while cancer silently devoured her lymph nodes. In 1979, inside a sterile hospital room reeking of medicine, Minnie's frail body slipped away in the arms of her husband, Richard. She took her last breath at just 31, leaving behind 2 young children. Her angelic voice vanished, leaving an agonizingly heavy silence in its wake. Number 12, Ike and Tina Turner, the bloody midnight escape in Dallas. This next scene is guaranteed to send a chill down your spine. It's a sweltering July night in Dallas, 1976. A woman with swollen, bleeding eyes and a shattered jaw from a brutal wire hanger beating is frantically running across a dark, busy highway. That woman is Tina Turner. In her pocket, she has nothing but a gas station credit card and exactly 36 cents. Sweeping car headlights reveal the blood-stained face of the Queen of Rock and Roll, sprinting for her life from a monster named Ike Turner. The most ruthless twist? To secure her divorce papers and finally escape the nightly assaults, Tina agreed to walk away with absolutely nothing. She took on millions of dollars in canceled tour debts, plummeted into bankruptcy, and literally scrubbed toilets just to survive. She threw away a multi-million-dollar empire for one simple reason: to buy her own life back. Number 13, Aaliyah and Damon Dash, the Bahamian Fireball and the Fall of a Kingpin. The beaches of the Bahamas in August 2001 were drenched in golden sunlight, but they served as the backdrop for a direct flight straight to hell. Desperate to rush back to New York and into the arms of her fiancé, Damon Dash, 22-year-old princess of R&B Aaliyah stepped onto a flimsy Cessna 402 aircraft. The plane was dangerously overloaded with luggage, and here is the deadly secret: the pilot was high on cocaine. Mere seconds after takeoff, the aircraft nosedived, violently slammed into the earth, and erupted into a massive fireball, instantly incinerating 9 souls. On the other side of America, the Rockefeller Kingpin's world completely shattered. The haunting image of a notorious music mogul collapsing on his luxurious apartment floor, screaming and sobbing hysterically until his vocal cords gave out, is unforgettable. Damon spiraled into a pitch-black depression, drowning in hard liquor and blindly picking fights with the entire world just to mask his profusely bleeding heart. That crash didn't just kill his future bride, it permanently buried the last shred of Damon Dash's soul. Number 14, Marvin Gaye and Anna Gordy Gaye, the royalties of ruin and a father's fatal bullet. Case number 14 isn't just about a broken marriage, it is about the ultimate unforgivable betrayal of blood. The legendary Prince of Motown, Marvin Gaye, was trapped in a bitter, financially devastating divorce with Anna Gordy, the sister of Motown's founder. The fallout was so vicious that a judge literally ordered Marvin to surrender the entire royalties of his next album just to pay his alimony. It completely broke his mind. He spiraled into severe, cocaine-induced paranoia, owing millions in back taxes and facing total bankruptcy. But the most horrifying scene, the one that will make your stomach drop, took place on April 1st, 1984. Inside his Los Angeles mansion, a violent, screaming argument erupted. And the man raising a Smith & Wesson .38 caliber revolver wasn't a jealous lover, a gangster, or an obsessed fan. It was his own flesh and blood. Marvin Gaye, the musical genius who pleaded for peace with what's going on, was shot twice point-blank in the chest by the very father who gave him life. He bled out on his bedroom floor, dying just one single day before his 45th birthday. Number 15, the notorious B.I.G. and Faith Evans, toxic loyalty and a red light execution. If Marvin Gaye's death was an intimate family nightmare, case number 15 is a ruthless public slaughter. The marriage of Bad Boy Records royalty, the notorious B.I.G. and Faith Evans, was deeply infected by toxic jealousy and blatant infidelity. Biggie was carrying on a highly publicized affair with Lil' Kim, while explosive rumors claimed Faith retaliated by sleeping with his sworn rival, Tupac Shakur. Their toxic romance became the fuel for a lethal East Coast versus West Coast hip-hop war. It's just past midnight on March 9, 1997. The glowing streetlights of Los Angeles reflect off the glossy exterior of Biggie's GMC Suburban as he sits idle at a red light on Fairfax Avenue. He's at the absolute pinnacle of his power. Suddenly, a dark Chevy Impala pulls up directly alongside him. The tinted window slowly rolls down. A man in a blue suit draws a 9mm pistol and unleashes a deafening hail of bullets straight into the passenger door. At just 24 years old, the King of New York was violently assassinated in the middle of the street. Faith Evans was left as a young, terrified widow, clutching a fatherless child amidst a bloody gang war that permanently scarred music history. But here is the chilling secret that the authorities tried to bury. Do you really believe a high-profile hit like this happens in front of hundreds of witnesses and the killer just vanishes into thin air? The terrifying truth hidden deep inside FBI files points to something far more sinister than a simple rap rivalry. Explosive evidence suggests that the hit wasn't just ordered by a rival record executive. It was allegedly orchestrated and carried out with the help of corrupt off-duty LAPD officers. Yes, the very cops sworn to protect the streets were allegedly on the payroll to execute the King of New York. And that is exactly why, nearly 3 decades later, this case officially remains unsolved, a deliberate, bloody cover-up hidden behind a wall of blue silence. We've just walked through 17 of the darkest, most heartbreaking chapters in music history. These couples met endings drenched in blood, tears, and absolute ruin. And honestly, putting this file together, it really messed with me. It's a terrifying reminder that the spotlight is just an illusion. You can have millions of people screaming your name, yet go home to a literal nightmare. No amount of money or platinum records can protect you from the cruelty of fate or the demons hiding in your own bedroom. But there is one glimmer of light in all this darkness. No matter how tragic their ends were, there is one thing that bullets, disease, and bankruptcy could never assassinate: their legacy. The art they bled for, the timeless music they left behind. That is bulletproof. They will live forever through their masterpieces. I have to ask you, out of all the classified files we unsealed today, which story truly shocked or haunted you the most? For me, the sheer betrayal of dying by your own father's hand still gives me chills. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. I read every single one. If you appreciate us uncovering these dark truths, hit that like button, subscribe to Black Legend Files, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an investigation. Until next time, stay safe and don't let the bright lights blind you.